Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. Roll call, please. I see Alyssa. No, come on. Alisa.
3 years.
I apologize constantly for this one, yes. Denise, Kwame, Carol, Ron, Sandy, and Agent Dave Preciette. We have two sets of minutes. They were discussed at a previous meeting in which they were held for additional information to be posted. This was August 5th. There was an enforcement order discussed, but it wasn't included in the minutes. Do you know if they've been updated?
The minutes had been updated, yes.
Okay, so the August 5th minutes were sent out a month ago, been modified. Any motion on it?
Move to accept.
I have a motion to accept.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
Abstain.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
5, 4, 1 abstain.
5, 0, 1. Then we had a set of minutes for November 18th, 2020, which everybody but Denise was here. There was an issue that there were 3 order of certifications done, and that was missing. Has that been added?
Yes.
Okay, so those minutes are now in order.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain?
Abstain.
501. Those minutes are now been completed. Thank you. The first hearing, please.
Okay, notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., or via Zoom if in-person meetings are deemed to be inappropriate due to COVID-19. On Wednesday, September 15, 2021, at 6:30 p.m., on the request for determination of applicability for Ethan Nardone, 35 West Pond Road, Plymouth, Mass. 02360, to install bog boards on existing hiking trails located on Assessor's Map 37, Lot C, 34 Crooked River Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing this project?
Yes.
Please identify yourself.
I'm Ethan Nardone. I'm the...
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bichette will read to the project, and then we'll ask for your comments. Okay? Thank you.
The project site is at 34 Crooked River Road. The project involves placing bog boards over a section of existing hiking trail in conservation land, which is within buffer zone and within bordering vegetated wetland. The property is off Crooked River Road and is known as the Great Neck Preserve, owned by the Wildlands Trust. It's proposed to place bog boards on a section of trail approximately 250 feet in length to enhance the existing hiking trail, which does get wet during certain times of the year. All the materials will be hand carried into the site and installed by hand. The bog boards and cross supports would be laid on the trail and connected together. Wooden pegs would be driven into the ground where needed to hold the cross supports in place. The area where the bog boards would be placed is relatively flat, and all of the work is to be done within the existing trail. So with that, I would recommend the approval of the project with the issuance of a negative determination number 2.
Ethan, is there anything you want to add?
No.
Okay, I'll ask the board. Carol?
No questions.
Ron?
No questions.
Elisa?
No
No.
questions. Good job.
Denise?
I just wanted to say that congratulations for reaching this point
Yeah.
in Boy Scouts.
Thank you.
Kwame,
No questions.
is there anything, do have a question. Is there anything there now?
There are there are logs across the trail to prevent biking, but other than that, no.
And I guess I didn't hike far enough in. I hiked the trail, I found a little bridge, so
Yeah.
guess I should have gone further?
Yes, it is further down.
Oh, darn, I
They-
thought I had,
The Wildlands Trust put up sections of trees to stop people from biking through there because it was causing problems for people who were walking. So they asked me to do this in order to help with that and also with erosion and stuff like that.
thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this project? I'm seeing none.
Move to close the hearing.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? The hearing is closed.
Move to
Aye.
accept the project with a -2 determination.
Second.
I have a motion for a -2. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? Thank you very much.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
before you start the work, check with Mr. Pichette for your paperwork, okay?
I will.
Thank you very much. Is Eric here yet? The Edge Environmental has asked that we can delay this about 10 minutes.
Okay, so
So-
I'll go forward.
No, table it.
I want to table it until after the Sampson hearing. I have a motion
Second.
to table.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstained. Okay, we're tabled until after the Sampson hearing.
Okay, notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., or via Zoom if in-person meetings are deemed to be inappropriate due to COVID-19 on Wednesday, September 15th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for James Sampson, care of Clark Home Improvement, 26 Access Road, East Wareham, Mass. 02538, to construct a garage located on Assessor's Map 134, Lot F96, 17 Cherry Street, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Is there anybody here for this project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
I'm Paul Clark. I'm James Sampson.
Okay. Mr. Bichette will read to the hearing.
Is that your butter card there?
Yes.
Thank you. The project site is at 17 Cherry Street in the Oakdale area, and the project involves the construction of a garage within a coastal flood zone. A 24 by 28-foot garage is proposed within flood zone AE elevation 14. The work is not within the buffer zone to any other wetland resource areas. The garage would be built on a concrete foundation, and there's no significant grade changes proposed, and the site is a relatively flat area. So I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Okay, Paula James, anything you'd like to add?
No. No. No, thank you.
Questions? Lisa?
Not yet, thank you.
Denise?
No questions.
Kwame?
No questions.
Carol?
No questions.
Ron?
No questions.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak for this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close the hearing.
I have a
Second.
motion, and I heard a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The
Um,
hearing is closed.
I make a motion to approve the project with a negative determination 2.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The hearing is closed, and you have your Approval, see Mr. Bichette before you start to work for your paperwork. Before we continue, I want to make an announcement that we have asked for, they've been asked for a continuation on the following hearings. So if you're here for those, we'll not be.
You all set. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Scott Gray at 7 Lydia's Island for a continuation. Thomas Parento, 17 over Jordan Road, continuation. Scott and Laura Christofoli, 9 Lydia's Road, continuation. George and Carrie Barrett at 4 Vern Ave, continuation. Wareham MA3 LLC in care of Atlantic Design Engineering's 101 Faring Hill has requested a continuation, just in case you're here for those. Eric's not here yet.
So we'll keep it tabled?
Keep it tabled. So the
first
next one, please. Duke.
Next one, please, sure.
Duke is next.
Karen Duke. Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6, public hearing will be held in room 320 Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., or via Zoom in person, if in-person meetings are deemed inappropriate due to COVID-19. On Wednesday, September 15th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Karen Duke, care of J.C. Engineering, 2854 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Mass., for site work associated with demolition of an existing dwelling and construction of a new dwelling and septic system located on Assessor's Map 124, lots 607, 608, 609, 278 Lake Ave, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Please identify yourself.
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
Thank you, Brett. Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
The project site is at 278 Lake Ave, and the project involves the removal of an existing dwelling and the reconstruction of a new dwelling, garage, and new septic system, with some of the site work being in the buffer zone to White Island Pond. An existing 30 by 32-foot dwelling is to be removed, and a new 30 by 32-foot dwelling is proposed in the same general area, with a 24 by 24-foot attached garage also. The proposed house, garage, and septic are all outside of the buffer zone, but there is some of the site work, including the grading, retaining wall, and stairs that are within the buffer zone, the closest work being approximately 80 feet to the edge of the pond, which is on the other side of the street or the road, which is a dirt road at that site. Hay bales and silt fence would be installed between the work and the resource area. We did receive a DEP file number for this project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions for the project.
It's an RDA. Yeah.
Well, then it would be a -3.
Okay.
Brad,
So many of these, I lost track of that one.
any comments?
I know that sums it up.
Any questions on the board? Carol?
No questions.
Ron?
No questions.
Kwame?
Oh, no questions.
Denise?
No questions.
Alyssa?
No questions.
I don't have it right yet, do I?
That was wrong. The other two were right.
Anybody in the audience want to comment on this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close the hearing.
I have a motion to
Second.
close the hearing. I
Second.
have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Make a motion to approve the project with a negative determination 3.
Second.
I have a motion and a 3 to issue a -3.
And with that motion, you want to do it, the usual and customary standard of,
No, because it's an RDA.
so you don't do any.
It's not a notice of
Yeah.
It's not a
intent.
notice of intent, just an RDA.
All right.
I have that motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. You got it. Please see Mr. Bichette before you start any of your work.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Eric, you okay? Sure. I'd like to take a, can someone make a motion to untable
Motion to on-table
Second.
the George's?
Edge Environmental Incorporated, 3036 Cranberry Highway.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to untable. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? You're up, please.
Am I reading this?
Yes.
No, we haven't, I untabled it, so we now will read the motion, the hearing.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., or via Zoom if in-person meetings are deemed to be inappropriate due to COVID-19. On Wednesday, September 15th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m., on the notice of intent for George Gazal, care of Edge Environmental LLC, P.O. Box 5262, Manchester, New Hampshire, for the removal and replacement of oil-impacted soil located on Assessor's Map 130, Lot 1011, 3036 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Please identify yourself to represent the project.
Good evening. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm with Edge Environmental, and I'm here representing the owner of 3036 Cranberry Highway.
Thank you. Mr. Burchett will read to the project.
The project site is at 3036 Cranberry Highway, and this is the site of a mobile home park that's on Dick's Pond. And this project involved the cleanup of oil that was spilled from an outdoor fuel storage tank at the site. The work was, or has been largely completed, and this is a follow-up application for finishing up any work that's remaining at the site, and also addressing the work that's already been completed. The spilled fuel has been cleaned up, and contaminated soils and water have been removed. The remaining work is to make sure the disturbed area has been stabilized with vegetation. We did get a DEP file number, so I would let Mr. Johnson discuss any further details about it, but beyond that, I would recommend the issuance of the order with the standard conditions and the added condition that the disturbed area be stabilized and that the commission be provided with any follow-up reporting for the site.
All right. Sorry?
Your turn.
Thank you. As stated in February, there was a release of number 2 fuel oil from an above-ground storage tank at one of the mobile homes. It ran about 30 feet into the Dick's Pond. We excavated the soil from that area, pumped groundwater as it came in. We had basically built a coffer dam between the pond and where we were working, but we were in the resource area. There was no choice, as there was the surface of Dick's Pond in that small area was covered with red oil. We have since backfilled that. That was in March of this year. Grass has grown. The area has also been covered with mulch. The only thing remaining right now is some silt fence that I put up in the water just to minimize the wave erosion. But really things are pretty much stabilized and complete out there.
Thank you. Questions? Carol?
No questions.
Ron?
Probably off topic, but what was the cause of the spill? Was it just the tank break? Did somebody hit it? What was the...
The owner of the trailer home stopped using the oil tank but didn't empty it. And when an oil tank sits outside, you get condensation of water inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically water that accumulated inside the tank flowed into the oil filter housing, and then it was the winter, it froze, it cracked the housing, and the oil just flowed out onto the ground and then into the lake.
Well, I'm glad it got taken care of.
The tank is gone.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Elisa?
No.
Denise?
No.
Kwame?
Real quick, what is the You said something about the erosion plan. What was that again? What did you use?
All right, so when while we worked out there, we basically built a coffer dam at the edge of the lake. And then once we completed the excavation and the backfill, I had them pull the coffer dam and install silt fence right at the edge, in the lake, but right at the edge of the water. And that was to stop basically wave erosion on that shore until it stabilized.
Excellent, thank you.
I did have a chance to meet Eric at the site and view the oil leak. It went into the soil and went into the pond. Eric was very quick in absorbing as much as he can, but there was ice on the pond. And I never saw the ice turn pink, which led me to believe the oil didn't get far into Dick's Pond, which was a good thing. Requested that the lake be lowered again a little so he could get into some of the soil that was along the shoreline. And I did visit it while it was being dug up, and well done. And I'm sure the owner of the mobile home park will not leave unattended oil tanks left on the property. This is not a cheap fix for him.
No.
No.
The owner of the mobile home and the tank was uninsured. And the mobile home park was uninsured. So it's come out of the owner's pocket of the mobile home park, not the
Again,
trailer.
Then I sure hope he has all the tanks removed by now.
Well, he definitely has insurance, because I was asked about that a day later. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Tough lesson to learn.
What's that?
It's a tough lesson to learn.
Tough lesson to learn is right.
So is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this project? If there's no more questions,
Move.
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion to close and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Motion to.
Dave, did you write down? I was going to have him run through what he wanted on there.
Alyssa?
No, I was just going to say, I think that Ron just said Dave's going to be writing this down.
Well, no, I just want to make sure that we add everything that he wanted to it if you didn't write it down.
So basically, we want to accept the project as stated, finishing the work on the site, and to be checking with you to make sure that this is the way you want it.
And to get any follow-up reports that are
Anything.
created from this work.
So the motion was to approve with the standard order conditions and that the disturbed area be stabilized and followed up on. I believe that is the motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
All right.
and have a safe trip home. I hope traffic's not too bad for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., or via Zoom if in-person meetings are deemed to be inappropriate due to COVID-19. On Wednesday, September 15, 2021, at 6:30 p.m., on the request for determination of applicability for Diana Cave, care of GAF Engineering, 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass., to construct an addition located on Assessor's Map 55, Lot BV10, 12 Myers Court, Wareham.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing this project?
Yes, Madam Chair, for the record, Bob Rogers from GAF Engineering, representing Diana Cave.
Thank you. Mr. Pichette will read to the project once we get our paperwork. It's- Okay.
The one for the project site is at 12 Myers Court, and the project involves the construction of a 22 by 40-foot addition within a coastal flood zone, Zone AE, elevation 15. The work is not in the buffer zone to any other resource areas. There is some minor grading shown around the foundation, but beyond that, there's no significant grade changes proposed. And so I would recommend the issuance of a negative determination number 2 to approve the project.
Thank you. Bob, anything you want to add?
Only if people have questions. So I have nothing to add.
Alyssa?
None.
Denise?
No.
Kwame?
No questions.
Ron?
No question.
Carol?
No questions.
My only comment is, it's nice when they plan ahead to put all their living and laundry on one level as we get a little older and steps get harder and harder to take. So I commend the family for planning ahead. Is there anybody here who would like to comment on this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Hearing is closed.
Move to accept the project with a -2 determination.
I have a motion for
Second.
-2. I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, approved. As always, Bob, see Dave before you start the work, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, or via Zoom if in-person meetings are deemed inappropriate due to COVID-19 on Wednesday, September 15th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for Richard Pearson, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 66 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to construct a single-family dwelling located on Assessor's Map 28, Lot 1005B, 5B Bayberry Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you, and please identify yourself representing the project.
Bob Rogers of GAF Engineering.
Thank you. And I do appreciate the extra effort to identify this site. It was a nice big 5-acre site. Okay. Mr. Marquette?
This project site is at 5B Bayberry Lane, and the project involves the construction of a dwelling in the buffer zone to a coastal bank. A 26 by 40-foot dwelling with attached covered porch, 3-season room, and wraparound deck is proposed, approximately 35 feet from the top of the coastal bank at the site. Also proposed is a new septic system, the leaching field of which would be well outside the buffer zone to the coastal bank, up closer towards Bayberry Road. The septic tank for the system would be just within the buffer zone to the coastal bank, and this would be a pump septic system. Hay bales and silt fence would be installed between the work and the resource area. We did receive a DEP file number for this project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions for the project.
Thank you. Bob, anything to add?
No, I would answer any questions if people have them.
Okay. Alyssa?
Not yet, Sandy.
Denise?
They're putting in a breeze.
You're going to have to get closer
I'm
to the
sorry.
mic.
They're putting in a breezeway from the house that's existing over to the garage that's there.
It's a cover, yeah, but it's called, it's labeled as a porte cochere, but yes, so,
How's it labeled? I'm sorry.
excuse me?
How did you say it's labeled?
A porte cochere?
Oh, here it is.
Okay.
So just a roof over the driveway to get from the house to the garage.
And they're putting a second floor on, but they're not increasing the septic system? Is that what, I'm trying to understand.
I could not hear your question.
Denise, I'm
Are they
having a tough
putting
time
on a-
hearing you.
They're putting a second story on, but they're not doing anything to septic? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, so right now, all that's there is the garage, and so that's going to be remodeled, and so it's going to be a brand-new home,
Okay.
two-story home with wraparound porch, and obviously a brand-new compliant septic system.
Is there a septic system there now? Is there a cesspool? I didn't see one.
Not that I'm aware of. This
So that-
lot was, created fairly recently, so to my knowledge, the only thing that was there was that existing garage,
And the
which is quite large.
electrical looks pretty new.
The electrical?
The electrical post with the meter on it.
Okay.
Do I read this right? How many bedrooms? Do I see 6 or 8? 6.
6.
It's a big septic system.
Yes. Good soils, fortunately, and pump it up as far away from the resource area.
Oh, yeah, now I see 6. Now that I get a bigger size, I can read.
This is the water, right? Here. There was that.
Is there water to this property right now?
Yes, there is. It's existing water line going to that garage.
There are 2 structures on it.
Then you'll need a water line from the garage to the home.
Yes, that's shown
Yep.
proposed.
And the driveway right now is all dirt and is that going to stay the existing driveway and the new driveway between the garage and the house? Will that stay as it is now, what I call dirt?
We're not showing it to be paved. We have our standard note number 6 saying that the contractor should coordinate for the surface treatment of the driveway. Certainly, if it was paved, there would be no grade change. There would be, no negative impact. But Bayberry Road itself is not paved.
No. So we can, if a notice of intent, put a condition that it not be paved. Or if anything's done, it's done as a pervious.
You could do that certainly for the area that's within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yep.
Which again, that small area would be in between the house and the garage, where the porte cochere is, so I wouldn't see any detrimental effect to the resource area if they chose to pave it.
Anybody in the audience would like to speak to this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to approve the project with the standard order of conditions.
And
And the pervious driveway.
pervious
What was
drive.
that?
And the driveway, the pervious driveway.
We didn't, it was just a question I didn't make. You want to make it a standard condition that the driveway remain pervious?
Yes.
So that's the standard order of conditions with the stipulation that the driveway remain pervious.
Do you need the motion restated?
Are the homeowners here to comment on this? And?
Well, so as I said before, it's our standard note that that's coordinated with the owner and
Yep.
but it's a coastal flood zone. So what are we accomplishing by prohibiting the pavement of only that short section of driveway where the porte cochere is?
Well, it's not prohibited. There are ways to pave that and make it stay pervious.
Sure, I guess I'm just posing the question that if they, so they could pave all of the rest of their driveway and maybe put brick pavers there or something, but it just seems,
Well, there's pervious asphalt. I mean, if you're paving, you could, so there are options.
that's
Should it
fine.
all be
I always make this point in a coastal flood zone and
Yep.
on a lot where there's no potential for harm to abutting properties.
So the motion is standard order of conditions and the driveway to stay pervious.
That is the motion.
Yes.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Please see Mr. Bichette before you start the work.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320 of Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., or via Zoom if in-person meetings are deemed inappropriate due to COVID-19, on Wednesday, September 15th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for Kevin Connors, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to construct a second-floor addition to an existing dwelling located on Assessor's Map 20, Lot L3 and L4, 13 Salt Creek Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Who's here to represent the project?
I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering here on behalf of Kevin Connors.
Thank you. No, I don't need it. Thank you. Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
The project site is at 13 Salt Creek Road, and the project involves adding a second-floor addition to an existing dwelling at this site, which is in the buffer zone to Shell Point Bay. So the existing house is 26 by 36 feet, and the proposal is to add a second-floor addition with an attic on top of that, within the same footprint. There is no proposed disturbance to the ground or any foundation work proposed as part of this project. So essentially, they're just going up with it. We did get a DEP file number for this project, and so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions and just making sure that materials that are removed from the existing dwelling are contained so that they're not sort of blowing around the site into the water. But other than that, no further issues.
Bill, anything to add?
I don't have anything to add.
Questions on the board? Sorry, Lissa?
Are they then, the septic is on their land, or is that joined up to the town?
No, the septic system exists on the lot. It's shown as light lines just to the left
Oh, there it is.
of the shaded-in area of the house.
Yep, and is that to be increased in size with the
No.
new?
So there's no increase in bedrooms in the house.
Okay. Thanks.
No increase in bedrooms. The second story, the attic space above, since we're in a coastal flood zone, velocity zone, the intention is to put the mechanical equipment, the air handlers, the hot water heater, things of that nature, storage upstairs in that attic space above the base flood elevation, or the design flood elevation.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No?
Denise?
Nothing at this time.
Kwame?
No questions, thanks.
So you say that they're going to move all of the existing stuff that might be in the basement up high?
Yeah, we're going to make it more compliant with the FEMA construction regulations than what they are now. So their mechanical equipment that run the house currently exists in the basement, so we will have to elevate that. That'll be required by the building permit.
To minimize damage if there's ever a flood event?
Yep.
That's it. Thank you.
Carol?
No questions.
Thanks.
You will be expanding the size of the footprint to cover the existing foundation that's already there? There's a piece of foundation that's covered with a tarp. Has that been there for a while?
Yes, and the purpose of the tarp is to keep the water from entering from that basement section into the basement of the house. There's no real separation between the two basement areas.
So how long has the tarp been there?
Years?
Years.
It's been there quite a while.
I guess they had more than one version of a tarp.
I think they must have.
Is there anybody here that has like to comment on this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close the hearing.
I have a motion. to close-
Second.
And I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Motion to approve the project with the standard order of conditions,
Thank you.
with removing any material off-site so that it doesn't get blown around.
Okay, that's the motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Thank you, you're done.
Okay, thank you
Please
very much.
proceed, Mr. Bichette, before you start the project, okay?
Very good.
Thank you.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., or via Zoom if in-person meetings are deemed inappropriate due to COVID-19 on Wednesday, September 15th at 6:30 p.m. on the Notice of Intent for Point Independent Yacht Club, Inc., care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to redistribute the sand that has accumulated against the existing bulkhead and to perform maintenance dredging located on Assessor's Map Lot 2, Lot 10060, Independence Point, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Please identify yourselves as representing the project.
Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering.
Paul Sullivan, Point Independent Yacht Club.
Chris Cuppins, Point Independent Yacht Club.
Thank you, Mr. Bichette. We'll read to the project.
So the project site is at the Point Independence Yacht Club, and the project involves maintenance dredging in land under the ocean and within land containing shellfish, and regrading the adjacent beach, which is on a coastal beach and within a coastal flood zone. Approximately 100 yards of sand is to be dredged from around the end of the wooden bulkhead near what they identify as the B dock. I did just have a question about the dredge methodology. I know in other times it was sort of a clamshell type setup. Is that similar to what's going to be done here?
I think so.
Okay,
We tried a vacuum truck before, but it didn't work too good, so I think we're going to go back to the barge and
okay. That's fine. The dredged sand would be moved to a dewatering area, which is up closer to Onset Ave and is identified on the plan, and then to be removed from the site. On the town beach area that's adjacent to the yacht club, it's proposed to redistribute sand in about 100 by 200 foot area that's shown on the plan. There really wasn't much detail in that part of the area or the plan regarding the proposed grades in terms of how sand is to be relocated. I did speak to Bob Rogers about that, so I would recommend that there be some plan changes required to show what the proposed elevations are going to end up being within that zone. We did receive comments from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries on this project, and they stated there should be a time of year restriction for the dredge work, which was no work between January 15th to May 31st. We did receive a DEP file number for the project, but at this time I would recommend a continuance to get that additional detail on the regrading on the beach part of the project.
Bob and gentlemen, do you have any comments to make, please, on this?
Well, I did have a discussion with David and relayed it to the owners, and so we're certainly willing to provide some additional information. To the extent that we need to coordinate that to make sure that things go smoothly at the next meeting, that's what we'll do. They're really just trying to do the minimum amount of effort to keep the sand away from that bulkhead so that it doesn't end up in that area that needs to be dredged. And so, if it can be done as just a foot of depth at a time to spread it out and keep it away, and since it is a town beach and this is maybe the second or third notice of intent application, we would hope that the commission would consider if we get our order of conditions this time, and we get the work done right away, and we get an as-built in a timely fashion, get a certificate of compliance, that perhaps there would be a special condition that would allow, similar work to be performed in the future, sort of like what happens with beach nourishment projects, that notice to the office and just the same activity, that we wouldn't always have to come back every 3 years for a full notice of intent, basically with the same set of plans and the same quantity and a new date, and take up the commission's time and have to go through all that paperwork. Yes, engineers, fees.
Well, in terms of what they want to do, I have no problem with it. It's been done before. It's just what I consider normal maintenance for the area. But I do think the detail needs to be on the plan to show specifically what's going to happen and what the proposed grades are going to be. As far as when you get an order, I wouldn't rush to get a certificate of compliance right away. That's good for 3 years. So therefore, you keep it open for the 3 years. That way, if there's some work that needs to be done, you can still do that work within the 3-year time frame. And then at the end of that, the applicant does have the right to request an extension from the commission to get additional years onto that order. That's up to the commission as to whether or not you want to grant that, but it is something that the applicant can request. So anyway, that's all I have to say on that.
Anything else?
Nope, just that I guess we think we should be able to take care of it within a two-week time period. So I guess the first meeting in October.
Once you get your paperwork from, yeah, we're going to be
We're
back
continuing.
in front of you in 2 weeks, October.
October 6th.
October 6th is the next meeting.
Yep. So questions, Carol,
No questions.
Ron?
I just want to bring up, it may not be pertinent to, but we did receive a letter from some people on this project. I don't know if we should introduce that into the record just so it's there, so it doesn't get looked over. So
We will ask for any comments on the project, and that time I'll introduce the letter if
Okay.
we're not here.
okay.
Melissa?
I just want to know, you say you're going to be taking away about 100 cubic yards of dredged material. You're going to take that away from the site totally. What if it seemed to me that it's kind of iffy as to how much dredged material will be there. Can you change that to remove all of the dredged material from the area?
We're anticipating 100 cubic yards, so that would be
I
all.
know, but my question is, what if it goes over?
We're not supposed to do it
Yeah,
more.
you guys would get mad at us if we did that.
Peanuts.
Well, what'll happen is whatever the volume is that they remove would have to be removed from the site.
Well, yeah, only
Yeah.
here it just says that, that approximately is going to be removed, 100 cubic.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that it's acknowledged that they take it off.
Right.
Yes, no, that'll be part of the conditions, definitely. That's what should be included when we get to that point.
Denise?
As long as that's included, I'll be fine.
I can't hear you.
As long as Oh, I was off. As long as that gets included, it should be fine.
Kwame?
No, I'm interested in the erosion control, after this is all said and done.
There isn't any, nature does its thing, and
nature's
they
gonna
clean
take
up
care of
after
it.
the fact.
Right.
We actually, what we're experiencing is not erosion per se, but we're getting the byproduct of the sand migrating down the beach. And it comes down and piles against our facility and then snakes its way around into the boat basin. So the more we can prevent it from doing that, the less we need to be kind of going in and doing in-water dredging, which is what we're trying to prevent.
Yes,
And what is, you talk about the sand moving, what does it do going down the beach? The sand that you're dredging and all that, will that change the look and the ability? I mean, I was pretty surprised once being in that water and how shallow it is even now. But this seems to me that you might get a buildup, a little bit of the sand down there, and that, How's that dealt with?
Yeah. Any of the material that is dredged from the B dock will go up to the field. So any of the.
You know, we're not hearing you.
I'm sorry. And any of the dredged material from the B dock, we call it, right at the end of that bulkhead, will go up to the field and sit in a dewatering basin, you know, until it's ready. When it's dewatered, then, believe me, everyone wants that sand. It'll go. When we remove the fill from the bulkhead, which if you look at the section there, and look at the section, think of it as a north-south, and on the left side, the south, most of our work is down by that bulkhead, just above the high water mark. And so we'll be removing sand there in order so that it doesn't go around the bulkhead, and we'll push it up the beach. We've done it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
It's sort of hard to even tell after we're done where the sand is up the beach.
Thank you.
All right. My question is, the intent is to put the dredged material up in your parking lot. There was
In the
nothing.
field.
In the field?
Yes.
Well, that's where you got all your trailers parked. I call that part of your, okay. Where you
Okay.
park your trailers. There was nothing marked as to where that site would be?
Oh, I thought there was.
No, not on the field. There's no stakes in the field that tells me where that U-shaped place you would be piling now. I'd expect that sand to contain shellfish of some kind, so they will just stay up there and rot away.
We've done it before, and
Yeah, I
there
know.
wasn't a lot of shellfish there.
It was not, because I thought the department, what was it? Division Marine Fisheries mentioned that there could very be some quahogs and clams in that, but you've done it before, so you would put it up there, let it dewater and dry out, then anybody can come get the sand? Is that what normally happens?
We don't just say anyone come, it just sort of goes away.
It sort of goes away. Now,
The last time we did this, we spread the sand in the field and regraded the field. So
That's happened
filling in
before.
potholes and stuff on our own property.
Okay.
100 yards of sand is not a lot.
Nope.
And there wasn't a lot of shellfish, there, because the sand that we're dredging is just beach sand that gets blown into the water. It's not like there's eelgrass or anything growing in it. It's a dead
just
area.
good old
Yeah, just white sand. Yeah.
Now, the regrading will occur above high water mark.
Yeah.
The dredging will occur beyond, lower, down into the water,
Yes.
up to the high water mark. Will that be done only at high tide, so everything's in water? Or you'll be dredging at low tide?
It's dredging, so yes, it could be done at any time period. It's been identified as an activity that is below mean high water.
Okay.
So-
So between low and high tide, you're going to be dredging that also, because that's up against the bulkhead, correct?
On the beach dock side, yeah, on the boat basin side.
On the boat basin side, anything being done on the non-boat basin side?
Yeah.
Well, we'll drag, you can see how it wraps around the corner?
I see that.
Right, so that will be pulled back
Okay.
there, so, and removed.
And
So-
all the work will be done off of a barge? Or what are you going to use for material how are you going to dredge? What are you using for machinery?
So what I would say is you just got to think about it as two different things, like the beach grading, and we think of
I
it
know
differently
the
too.
beach, yeah, I'm
so that's
talking
like-
about the
okay.
dredging.
So when
Yeah.
we do the dredging, sort of up to the contractor, what they think the best way to get to it would be. In the past, they've done it from a crane, from the parking lot. They've done it from a barge in the basin when we pull all the docks out in the winter, because they've got great access. I would think that's probably the easiest way for them to do it. Or they could come down with a long reach excavator and pull it out that way and load it onto a truck, and pull it out that way. But I guess it would be up to them how they want to do it.
Okay. I think that answers my questions. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this project?
Good time.
Yes, you want to please come forward, one at a time? If you gentlemen mind giving up one of your seats, so, well, we're trying to get it to, we're trying to get to a place now.
They should go.
Sandy, they should go.
They should go.
Please have a,
My seat, sir.
Right here.
Here's my seat, so you have a plan in front of you.
No, Sandy, I think that everybody should be off, and this is now a different group.
I can't hear you.
I said, I believe these gentlemen should also let their seats be vacated because there are 3 other people
well-
back.
Sure, I didn't know.
I think you'd
All right,
mind.
but I may call you back to answer any questions.
I'll be right here.
Thank you. Please identify yourself.
Yeah, my name is Douglas Churchill. I live at 11 Clearwater Drive, which abuts the beach area. I am
So-
I'm labeled on the
So
plan.
Douglas, you're the one that sent us the letter from September 8th?
Pardon me?
Are you the one that sent us the letter on September 8th? It
Yes.
says Carolyn Douglas Churchill.
Yes.
Is that you?
Yeah, it is me.
Thank you. And the other 2 that just joined you?
Yes, good evening. My name is James Bigelow, co-owner of the property 14 Clearwater Drive, the property that abuts the yacht club. This
Okay,
is my
and?
sister, Laurie Katie.
I'm Laurie Katie.
Okay, thank you. We're going to have to ask you to speak into those mics so we can be, Bob, I can't hear you. Yes, so
Sit up
Microphone's
close
closer
and
to
make,
you,
su-
and make
pull the
sure that they're turned
microphone.
on.
Douglas, it's your turn. What would your comments be?
Well,
Come closer to the microphone.
number one,
His mic
I
isn't
don't
on.
understand how the yacht club can be telling us that they've been moving sand down the beach. We've never been notified, and apparently this committee has never been notified that they've been doing that. So I'm surprised that they are acknowledging that. They've made a offhand comment that you can hardly tell the difference. The elevation in front of my property is up at least 3 feet. And if I had some way to quantitatively prove that, I wish I could do that, but I don't. But I don't feel it would be my responsibility to prove that it's been raised 3 feet in front of my property. The people doing it should have to do that. I believe that my letter has addressed that issue, that the contours on that beach are not accurate as described in this plan. And they need to accurately show that, and then as Dave has mentioned, we need to show us exactly it's going to look like when they're all done. Now, they've requested dredging. I have no reason to have any objection to the dredging aspect of this project. I would point out, as I did in my letter, that the dredging says on the B dock area, which is on the east side of the bulkhead, but the shaded area shows it dredged on the west side also. So, and if they're going to do that, I don't necessarily have an objection to it, but I'd like it clarified that that's exactly what's going on.
So they're going to be dredging in the darkened area you see on that map in front of you, the plans. You see the plans? You see the darkened area on both the east and west of the bulkhead?
Yeah,
That's the area that's going to be dredged on both sides of that bulkhead.
but the verbiage of it says that they are going to dredge at B dock. That's not B dock on the west
Oh.
side of the bulkhead. But anyways, okay, so that is clarified to my understanding now, but it still doesn't change. I don't really have an objection to that being done if it's below the low water mark.
It's below the high water mark. Correct?
Then I object to that that I would have an objection to dredging above the high water mark. That's public beach.
No, they will dredge below the high water mark.
But okay.
So at high water,
I still don't have an objection to the dredging part of it.
okay.
I do feel that it should be part and parcel to the elevation
Okay.
so that we can understand exactly what it'll look like over there.
Okay. Your concern is the removal of the sand above high water mark. Is that your concern?
Yes.
And do you plan to be modifying the sand in front of Mr. Churchill's property?
What?
I'm sorry, I'm going to ask
So what I
you're going to have to come up to one of the microphones. I didn't want you to all leave at the same time.
No problem. Can you hear me now?
No,
Okay.
I think they need
No, all
it.
right. Excuse me. So if I understood Mr. Churchill, what he was saying was that the sand is piling up in front of his house. I would agree with that. You know, I think we're all experiencing the same thing. You know, we don't have a problem helping the neighbors out moving the sand. It's up to the commission as to whether or not, you know, you guys want us to do that. You know, there is some beach grass up there. So we avoid the beach grass. I think our last order and conditions said not to disturb the beach grass.
leave
So
the vegetation as it is.
yeah,
yes.
so that's why we haven't messed with that. So I can understand why if you're coming down and seeing like, oh, geez, it's lower over here, but it's the same here, but it's still coming down either way. You know, it's every year. If you look at a picture, we've got a picture in the clubhouse that shows where the beach was in 1999 before they dredged the East River to where the beach is now, and it's drastically changed. Thousands and thousands and thousands of yards of sand have come down the beach. And in some ways, there's more places to sit on the beach, but it is a lot more shallow. It has changed the dynamic. It has impacted our facility, and I'm a resident of the neighborhood as well. So I'm not just here as, you know, some of the yacht clubs.
Your
so.
plan is to regrade the sand above the high water mark on map 2, lot 1006, which is owned by the town of Wareham,
Yes,
which happens to be in front of Mr. Churchill's property.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And with just one other note too, the town is moving sand around every week with the seaweed rake. You know, so that's part of it too. You know, it's like, you know, they could be a little bit more diligent towards pulling it away from the facility versus, you know, it's sort of we're at the end of the run, so it's always coming down with a rake full of stuff, and then they actually, you know, as you know, dispose of it in our
Be
lot,
happy
so.
that they're raking.
Oh, I'm very happy. I'm very happy about that. I'm just saying it contributes to it. You know, it's all part of it.
It's
so.
all moving around.
So.
Mr. Churchill, does that answer your concerns and questions? What else can we answer for you?
I think this gentleman made a reference that the East River dredging project and the deposit of sand there is what is the cause of the sand in front of that portion of beach in front of my place.
Well, sorry, when was the East River last dredged? Not in my memory.
Pardon me?
I can't remember the last time they dredged the East River.
It was about 9 years ago.
Yeah, it's going back about, yeah, it's probably more like 15 years ago.
15 years?
It's been a while.
Okay. So
So-
it's been a while. Oh,
It's been a while, but in the last few years, the elevation in front of my property has risen quite appreciably. Like I mentioned, I would estimate 3 feet, maybe more. And that is not coming from the East River, and that's not coming from down the beach being blown up.
So where is it coming from?
Coming from the yacht club when they've been moving the sand.
So, but,
Every single spring we show up in the last 3 years, and I can't be
Sorry, do you have
exact
proof?
about it. The elevation has been raised.
Do you have proof that the yacht club moved sand in front of your property? I mean, they don't
They
have.
just said they
They
did.
don't have permission to move the sand around until they come to us.
They
It's
just
been
said they
3
did.
years.
They just said they did. They just said we've been doing it in the past with negligible.
But I don't remember them saying they piled it up in front of your property.
so what, so,
Sorry.
In years past, they have had permits that allowed them to do this sort of activity. So in the past, yes, this work has been done. What the grades were then and what they are now, I guess that's part of the question and why I want to see the plan revised to reflect what the proposed grades are going to be. That's what I've asked for the engineer to do.
I think my point that I would like to emphasize is that this is not a one-time thing. All of a sudden, in a year, we're going to have a slight increase in elevation or change in elevation, whatever it's going to be. This has been an ongoing thing. It's been going up, up, up. Now, the club accurately says that the wind blows the sand down the beach. But I stand on my property, I don't feel the wind blowing west to east. I feel the wind blowing south to north. It comes directly off the water. Now, I understand, and everybody probably understands, the wind does crazy things, but that's exactly what's happening. You're getting east-west, you're getting north-south, you're getting south, I mean, it does everything. So I'm getting wind blowing the sand up on my property. So they have a problem with the sand going towards their property. I have a problem with it going towards my property. And it's gotten worse because more and more sand is put in front of my property.
No, and I understand, but I think one thing that I'd like to point out is when they came down to answer your question the first time, they did make reference to wanting to help, but if there's any type of vegetation, things like that, their hands are kind of tied because we're not going to let them just remove that. So if there's spots where it wouldn't disturb vegetation or beach grass or anything like that, it sounds like they'd be pretty willing to help try to move some things around when they're doing their project. But like I said, if there's beach grass, any type of vegetation, we're not just going to let them go and move it all because we wouldn't let anybody else do that.
I understand that, and I wouldn't expect it, but you see, this is historically, my letter makes a reference to that my wife has lived and been at that beach since as a child. Her family owned down there. So
yeah, I think you said the 20s or something like that. Mm-hmm.
She knows what that beach is like. I know what it's like in the last 40 years. There was no beach grass. There were no sand dunes with grass on it forever.
But you have to understand, it's also been
but now all this
a lot of years, things change.
Mr. Bigelow will refer to his property. I'll let him speak for himself. But right now, not in front of my property, but in the right-of-way, there is now developed a 3-foot sand dune with grass on it. I don't have an objection to it. I don't have any idea whether that's good or bad, but that's what nature is doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that nature has done that with the help of all the sand that's been deposited up in front of this section of the beach. So,
All right, so how about if we say, if we give the yacht club permission to do the dredging, but no work on the beach and let nature do its thing? I'll try that again.
Yes.
Dredge allowed, but no work on the beach and let nature do its own piling up on everybody's property.
Right. I don't have an objection to the dredging. I understand their problem with the bulkhead, and I support whatever they want to do to try to help themselves have a better situation there. But we have a problem now in front of our section of the beach.
And how do you suggest the yacht club take care of that problem for you?
I don't want any more. I don't want to argue that we need to go backwards with it. But I don't want any more sand in front of our property.
Okay.
And I don't want to say, I don't want to just protect my property. We use the whole beach, my family does. Everybody around uses the whole beach. So moving the sand further down isn't really the answer
So
either.
if we condition it, saying that there be no sand adjusted on the above high water mark by anybody.
That would be my argument, yes, my position at this point.
Because I have more questions for Paul and Chris, so.
Okay, and I think we're meeting minds, but I just want to make one last comparison. I don't like all that sand in front of my property. They don't like all their sand over by the bulkhead. If I came to you next month with a plan that says I want to move that beach to the east over in front of their property, nobody would want that to happen. So just to reemphasize my point.
The wind will take care of that one.
I know, I know how far I get.
Yeah.
Okay, I am done.
Yes, good evening. My sister and I, we've been residents there, summertime residents for approximately 39 years at this location. And we have photos here. Again, our concern is mostly the redistribution of the sand from the high water mark that they're planning on moving. I don't have a problem with them moving it. I do have concerns as far as where it's redistributed to. We have a very serious problem with the sand in front of our property, and that does include, it is approximately 3 feet of sand. And I have photos showing probably 30 years ago that you can see a 2-tiered wall the corner of our property and Clearwater Drive. That is not to be seen anymore. Matter of fact, you can't see the wall, but you can't see the fencing that's on top. It's all been buried. And so now there is some vegetation that's growing on the beach in front of that. But it's, again, 30 years ago, we didn't have this problem at all. Everything was fine. It's been the redistribution, whether it was lawful or unlawful, movement of sand on the beach that has caused this problem.
Do you think the yacht club caused the problem
I don't know
to
who-
occur in the last 30 years?
I don't know
By moving the
who-
sand around?
Well, so if you look at this plan here, they're talking about just moving it down the beach a small distance. So yes, I believe that would be a problem. If they've done it before 2 to 3 times, I believe, yes, that would have been a problem also. It could be the town. Maybe the town, you would have records of that if you move sand and redistribute it in front of our property. But nonetheless, it's creating a drastic problem. Many years back, they put in a storm drain at the end of Clearwater Drive. I'm sure you have photos and documentation of that. I don't know if that was a grant project through the town, state, et cetera. But if you look at that, we can look online as far as topographical pictures, and you will see that you can't see any of that work anymore. There were large rocks that went down to the beach to assist in the drainage in that area, and it's all covered with sand. And so it's a drastic problem for our property.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things over that span of time, because obviously you've had the East River dredge sand that was introduced to the system, which
Sure.
wasn't there before the 30 years
Yep.
ago. And then, of course, whatever they might have moved
Yep.
and whatever is being blown by the wind. So I think it's a combination of things that has resulted in the situation you have right now. And so I do think that seeing some grade changes shown on the plan is going to be what's needed so that everybody can understand what they actually intend to do, and then we can determine if it's acceptable or not. So that's what I'm recommending. That's why I'm recommending the hearing be continued until we get that additional detail.
And I'm willing to share my photographs of currently now or from in the past when you could actually see the entire wall.
Yeah, any information would be great to have extra.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody else? Would you like to comment?
No, I'm just of equal concern as my brother,
Okay.
and nothing
You have to
additional
use
add.
the mic.
Nothing additional to add. I've got the same concerns as my brother, so, but it's drastically changed, and again, we understand the forces of nature, but there seems to be a little more at play perhaps than just the normal wind and some of the previous dredging that happened several years ago.
Thank you. Anybody else to comment on this project? Yes,
Can I make one brief?
if you come up to the mic.
One brief statement. I mentioned the wind, obviously the wind blows all directions. Well, when it blows from the north offshore, it's blowing sand out into the water. Now, 30 years ago, there wasn't a sandbar out at the low tide down out about 10 feet. I think my letter refers to that. And now there is, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's actually spreading down the beach. So you are having a problem in the water, not just up on our property. And I think that has to be addressed, and when they do their elevations, I think that needs to be shown too. There's been reference about, well, the club's actions have caused any of this. I can't say that. I don't think anybody can say that. But all they do know is that 40 years ago, the beach was a certain way, and it had been that way for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden, it started to change. In the last 10 years, I would say, certainly since the East River dredging and the subsequent removal of sand up on the beach. So where's the evidence? There's none, but there's circumstantial stuff that shows that this depositing of sand there is causing a problem. So anyways, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Chris and Paul, anything to add? Would you like to comment? Oh, yeah, Bob, you too can come up.
So I guess what I would say is, Paul and I are both representatives of the board at the yacht club, but we're also residents. I live at the top of the hill above you guys. And my family's been in Onset for 5 generations, so I think we're in this together. And, you know, if we can work together to resolve the issues that are affecting all of us, what I would say is that, you know, you can now walk onto our docks from the beach. And because at low tide, they sit in the sand. And so what we started to do was push some of that sand away to stop that problem. But you've got to put it somewhere. And I don't think anybody wants us to be hauling all the beach sand out of Onset. So it's got to go somewhere. If you look in the East River, you could see where it was because there's no beach there anymore. And I'm sure their residents are upset that they don't have a beach anymore. I could tell them where to find it. But we're just here to work with the neighbors and just try to solve the problem together. But when we have moved sand, we have always done so, you know, post when we came before this board in the past to get the permit, and we did so in according to what was laid out in our plan previously. That was probably 4 years ago at this point.
I'm sure North Water Street would love to have the sand.
Right.
Yeah, that's really
Well,
rock. Yeah.
But, so I would just throw that out there, Madam Chair, that the last time that a notice of intent was filed for this was in 2016, I believe. And the notice of intent was filed with a request to remove the sand from the beach because to remove it.
And what did we?
The commission at that time prohibited the removal. They only allowed the regrading of the sand, and it was not allowed to be removed. And so, you know, if it could be simply removed in the area near the club and given to the town to use wherever it was most beneficial, then we would eliminate this issue of regrading and...
Then, when you come back in October 6th, can you give us an idea of how many cubic yards you think could be removed from the beach to accommodate the abutters?
Well, it's the town beach, so yes.
I know, but
we respect
if the idea is that we have to go to the town and ask them if we could reduce the amount of sand in this location, we've got to give them some idea as to how much we're looking at donating to the town.
And I think that's
town sand.
I think that's going to be a tough, for us to keep moving the sand off the beach. You just imagine what's happening. The sand is coming down the beach, hitting our bulkhead, and then we're removing it.
Yes.
We're removing it. I don't know if that's sustainable in the long term. But if, I sort of learned something tonight, that when we did the grading, you know, I saw them do it a number of times, and I'll stand by my statement, you could barely tell. Now, Mr. Churchill may have a point, that, you know, if the sand, if we moved it up and it blew back towards his yard, maybe some did. But I think you got to look at what's coming down the beach and what we graded, and I think much more is coming down the beach than anything that got blown off from us grading. If we stop grading the beach, which we can do if you don't want us to do it, we'll just do the dredging. But if we stop grading the beach like that, it's going to start coming into the parking lot. It's going to start filling up catch basins. The town actually has a project planned right down in the corner of the yacht club now to replace some catch basins and a drain line there. New construction, raise the area. That is just going to be more susceptible to the beach coming across our entrance and going into the parking lot. Right now, when you walk off our concrete sidewalk onto the beach going west up, it's about grade. It's about even. And so when we do this work, I really anticipate us doing more work down near the bulkhead and pushing the sand up there. If we can't push it far enough away from Mr. Churchill or the other neighbor there, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, I'm not so sure what we do. Maybe we just let it run and see what happens.
We look forward to the idea of coming back in October 6th with some elevations for us to consider.
Yes, thank you.
Motion to continue the hearing
I have a motion.
to October 6th.
Second.
I have a motion to continue to October 6th. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
At least I'll give you my contact information.
Yeah.
Okay.
18 Fisherman Cove.
Yes? Want that read? You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., or via Zoom if in-person meetings are deemed inappropriate due to COVID-19 on Wednesday, September 15th, 6:30 p.m. On the notice of intent for 18 Fisherman Cove Realty Trust, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass., to remove and replace pilings for an existing pier located on Assessors Map 3, Lot 1010, B2, 18 Fisherman Cove Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Please identify yourself representing the project.
Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Bichette.
So the project site is at 18 Fisherman Cove Road, and the project involves the removal of existing pilings and replacement with new pilings for an existing pier at this location. So currently, towards the end of the pier where the float is, there are 4 metal galvanized pipe pilings that the applicant wishes to replace with 12-inch wooden pilings. So these pilings would be just an in-kind replacement, but with just a different material. It's a little larger and more substantial. Again, this is a licensed existing structure. The pile work would be done from a floating barge, which would have to be done at a higher tidal range. We did receive comments for this project from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries, which had no comments on the project, since it was basically an in-kind replacement. And we also did receive a DEP file number for this project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions to do this project with the added condition that the work be done at the higher tidal range for the project when the pile driver is brought in.
Thank you. Bob, anything to add?
No, Madam Chair.
Questions? Carol?
No questions.
Ron?
No questions.
Kwame?
No questions.
Denise?
No questions.
Alyssa?
No questions.
I have a question. When was the new work done on the pier? Those are new pylons.
Yes, he's,
Supporting things.
so what I was told was that the new pilings at the end were done several years ago. This is just, from what my conversations with the owner. And that he thought that this is a license that's good for 99 years. So the pier was in existence when they licensed it in 1993, and he was given a 99-year license to maintain it. And so when he hired us to do the survey and to file the notice of intent to do the repairs and to do the new pilings, he felt like he ran out of time, that his dock was going to fall into the bay, and so he reconstructed the pier with the exact same lumber as is shown on these license plans. I had to go out there myself. I did go out there myself and take a look as I was coordinating the language in the notice of intent. And so all he needs to do at this point is, and certainly I get your point, he should have asked for permission. I get your point. There should have been at least notice to the office and an RDA, but he was...
Why didn't he finish the pier? Since he's done so much without approval, why not go down the other 4 pylons?
Because the contractor refused to install any additional pilings as part of his work. But, you know, again, I'm told it was several years ago that the outer float
It
pilings
really
were
looked-
replaced. And of course, very recently, you can see that he repaired all of the lumber, did a very nice job.
Those are nice, new.
Yeah, that's not several years in the making. That's pretty recent.
Yes, I'm only saying that just the two outer pilings
Okay.
were represented to me to be several years ago.
So you kind of know where I'm going to go with this. Is the applicant here with you, or is it just you representing the applicant?
No, he's not. I'm representing them.
Okay.
They live quite far away, and they're elderly.
Because, I mean, Sandy brought it up, so since it's been brought up, it's going to need to be discussed. Obviously, we know that, whether it's work that would be approved or not approved, still needs to have, something brought before us before it's done. So I think we need to have a discussion for a violation and a fine for doing work before it was brought to us.
I understand.
So,
Can you pass it on down so they can see that? I mean, there's no question that's new wood.
yeah, that's not, that's,
He admits that.
Yes.
Said it's
Yeah,
new wood.
I mean, he said it was.
The rest of the dock is
Into-
several years.
into
so
the-
on. Oh, yes, I forgot. Yes,
No,
it's already been stated that the wood is new.
Yep. So we know work was done without a permit, so that's,
Very
there's no, so we just need to discuss.
So we have one is discuss the project as that has been placed in front of us for 4 new pylons replacing the metal rods, and then the issue of the violation. So is there anybody here? I asked everybody for questions. Yes, I did. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to this project? I'm seeing none, but is there any other discussion on the board regarding this project?
No?
I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Any idea who the contractor was that refused to do the last 4 pylons but did this existing work? Any
Well,
idea?
I don't know who did any of that work, Madam Chair. I guess I could find out.
Couldn't tell anyway.
Yeah. But you think that this work was done within the last year?
The pier, the lumber on the pier, I believe, was done this summer.
This summer, so we're talking a couple months ago.
Yeah, I mean, I was well on my way to having a much more elaborate description in the notice of intent. And when I started coordinating with the owner and went down and spoke with him on the phone, then certainly, I was aware, I knew you would be aware.
When did you start working with the applicant?
About a month ago.
Okay, so it's,
So, again, I come in at the end. We feel like we have an obligation to be brutally honest with the commission.
yeah, I mean, because obviously, we'd figure it out anyway, right? I mean, that's what we do.
Right.
But
so, everything, again, with the replacement of the pilings is, the pipe piles with the green heart piles is the only change from the license plans. And so, we will ask for a modification to the license from Chapter 91 once we are able to receive the order of conditions.
Now, when they put in the 4 new pylons, will they extend the plank, the deck out to those points, or why bother?
No, I think everything's dimensionally works and is dimensionally accurate. So it's just exactly where those 3-inch galvanized pipes are now. The 4 green hearts would go right in, and then it's just reworking the rollers and the attachment.
So it looks like the floaters will be put back in place. Is that what it is? The dock ends, and then there'll be a ramp down to a floating dock?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yep, all the same dimensions.
All right.
And the piles, the benefit of the piles, they'll go in, and so they'll be up at elevation 21 above that 100-year flood, so at least the floats could rise a lot higher than just on those galvanized pipes.
Nobody in the audience would like to speak to this project, so if you're comfortable.
Did Ron mention a fine? Do we have a fine for this?
So,
We need to close the hearing
okay,
first.
well, this is where I would say what I would want to do, and this is my opinion, is to continue this, because I would like to have the applicant come and talk to us about the work that was done before we approve anything.
I think that Bob said the applicant's older and can't make that trip.
He's in the Boston area. I understand your point, of course, but this is a situation where he rebuilt exactly what was there in the exact same spot, and so the violation is it's solely limited to not providing advance notice, or at least the filing of an RDA.
That is correct. He should have, yeah.
Yes, right. So there's no physical, it's a procedural violation. In deference to my client, I think if you were going to do a 300 to the owner and a 300 to the contractor, it seems perfectly fair to me that it would, whatever fine you decide would go entirely onto the owner.
Yeah.
Well, so the problem with, we can't just solely just throw the fine on top of the owner, because we have what we do, we can't fine the owner more than $300 for the violation. So I can't say, okay, I'm going to fine the owner for the owner's piece, but then throw the contractor's piece on top of it too. So I can't make the owner pay a $600 fine, because that goes outside of the scope of what we have written down in our laws.
The owner might very well tell the contractor, I'll take care of it, and we don't need to know that.
And
True.
And not only that, but we don't have the contractor.
No.
Well, perhaps 18 Fisherman Cove Realty Trust being the owner, perhaps Dominic Serra was his own contractor.
Yeah.
Potentially.
So
That's just my opinion. I'm only one of a host of.
Can we say that we're fining the contractor without actually having the contractor's name?
that's what we're thinking of doing.
Yeah, if we can do
Yes.
that, why can't we just
The
go ahead
contractor
and...
to be determined
Correct.
will be fined for the $300,
Right.
and the owner.
And the owner, $300.
Sandy, is it $300 because this is something that we would have approved?
It was done in the wetlands without approval.
Regardless of whether we'd approve it or not.
We would have approved it more than likely.
Right.
But the 300 is because they did work without approval.
Not the approval.
Well, we know, all right, whatever.
All right, so I need a motion to, are you comfortable closing the hearing as we have it?
I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Hearing is closed.
So we're going to have, the motion is to approve the project as stated, but adding that there will be a fine of $300 to the homeowner and a fine of $300 to the unknown contractor at the right now.
And to add that the work will be done at the higher tides.
And the work will be done at the higher tides.
That is the motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Thank you, Bob. Okay.
All right, we're ready again. Been very patient in the corner there. Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., or via Zoom if in-person meetings are deemed to be inappropriate due to COVID-19. On September 15, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for Miriam DeMoro, care of David Moore, 54 Flag Street, Bridgewater, Massachusetts, 02324, to construct a garage addition located on Assessor's Map 46A-1, Lot 28, 1 Blue Jay Terrace, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Please identify yourselves as representing the project.
Yes, Miriam Demaro.
Russell Demaro.
Thank you. Thank you for being patient.
No problem.
I think it's the same.
No, he's giving you something too.
No. Okay.
Phone's out.
Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
Okay, so the project site is at 1 Blue Jay Terrace in the Pinehurst area, and the project involves the removal of an existing garage and the reconstruction of a new, larger garage in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and a coastal beach at this site. So the existing garage is to be removed, and a new 20 by 28-foot garage plus new driveway is proposed to be done at the site. And the plan is showing this work to be just outside the 30-foot to the top of the coastal bank. There would be, obviously, as I said, a new driveway proposed and the new larger structure. So the area where the work is to be done is a relatively flat area. There's no significant grade changes proposed. For this project, I did not get a DEP file number at this time, which isn't unusual. We don't always get a DEP number by the time of a hearing. So I would have to recommend, obviously, that the hearing be continued to the next meeting so we can wait to get the DEP file number to see if they have any comments on the project. So,
Okay. Just so you know, Dave, they received the notification on the 17th, and they cashed my check on the 24th. And I've been checking every day, and I haven't seen it yet.
so they got the money.
They have the money.
The money, yes.
Yeah, so as I said, also it is proposed to place erosion control between the proposed work and the resource area. But again, I'd have to say we need to continue this until we get the DEP file number.
Okay. Marion, do you have any comments you'd like to make or additions to what Mr.
Well,
Bichette said?
I guess I would just ask if we could get a temperature reading from the board so that we know we're set up, queued up to go into the zoning board as well, and just to sort of see, is this something that is amicable based on the Commonwealth of Massachusetts DEP giving us, positive feedback and a number, so that we can just keep things moving, because we're trying to accomplish some things, at least preparing the area this year to be able to do it in the spring. We don't want to disturb the neighbors with the summer project. My husband's a licensed contractor, and, we just want a temperature reading and would be glad to come back if need be.
Okay, you are working inside the 30-foot no-work zone for 2 corners, correct? Am I reading this map plan correct?
There is work within the 30-foot no-activity zone.
But-
They're showing or saying that there's already existing structures within that area.
And driveway.
Yeah, there's a paved a driveway with pavers and the existing garage, which was built, I think, around 1937.
Yeah, the only question I had, and I mentioned this to yourself and to Brian, was I wanted to see the plan superimpose what's existing compared to what's proposed, because we really don't see that. We have 2 separate.
Well, that's the one with the red, which is what Brian gave us from GAF per your request.
But this is more or less a diagram with no stamp or anything, so.
But we can have that formalized.
One of the questions I have, just going over this quickly. So you propose to remove the existing brick paver driveway. Are you proposing to put a new driveway in?
No, well, not there, no.
No, the new driveway would come to the left side of the building.
Okay, and what is that, I'm just trying to see, what's that material going to be?
It can be pervious.
Yeah, it could be anything. I don't mind
Yeah.
a shell driveway or anything.
Okay, no, I just saw the removal. I didn't, like I said, just quickly, I saw the removal of the driveway, and generally when there's a removal of a driveway, there's a driveway added. So I just wanted to make sure it was something that was going to be.
The current driveway enters from Blue Jay Terrace straight in.
Yep.
This will enter from Blue Jay Terrace, but then make a turn in, so the garage doors will be facing Pinehurst.
Okay,
where now they're facing Blue Jay, so the driveway would be relocated.
okay.
Because we're very restricted on the width of this garage, and you won't be able to fit a car in,
Or make the turn.
if we don't enter from Pinehurst, or the end of Blue Jay.
Sandy,
It's a
Has
corner
anybody,
lot.
has anybody visited this site?
I did,
yes.
your question, are the pylons that are there, the dimensions of the garage?
You mean the cones?
The cones.
Cones?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when you came into Blue Jay, there were two on the Pinehurst side, that's the end of the driveway.
Uh-huh.
They were
And each
labeled.
pylon is marked also.
Yeah.
Each- And then the other corners and the corner of the building are marked
Yeah,
as well.
it says southwest corner,
Right.
southeast corner,
Okay.
northeast corner.
You want to start with your questions?
So I'm understanding that what you're doing is you are just making a bigger garage
We're removing the existing garage,
and making.
making a bigger garage, but in the back end of the garage, the waterfront side,
The existing
the
garage.
existing garage, we're actually taking away, so giving more open area towards the
Right.
water.
Okay, so.
And also increasing the setback also of the existing garage. There's no setback at all from the existing rear
Right.
garage to the next
Are
lot.
you going to
We're
set
going to
it
have
back?
We're going to make it better.
approximately 8
Yeah.
feet there.
I have a question, and it may sound like a foolish question. Is your garage going to have electricity and water?
Yes.
Is it,
Yes, it will have both, because it has living space above.
so it does have a living
Oh,
space?
yes.
All right, so,
Is
Part of- It's attached to the house, it's going to be part of the living space of the house.
all right, this is what we didn't quite get, because you had one cone that was just in the corner, just with your house like this, by the door, not, you had one way, a little off-site.
If I could show you a picture?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this on town sewer?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry, Pinehurst is.
okay.
And these should be in your packages too.
Yeah, okay,
This is the view from Pinehurst
yeah,
with the existing shed,
Which will be gone, yes.
the existing garage, and the home. This is Blue Jay Terrace.
yeah,
This is the direction coming from Blue Jay Terrace, which would come in, and the driveway would come here. This garage and the shed would be removed. In this corner of the house, we're going to have an entrance into the garage and into coordinating the living space into the house as well. It'll all be conditioned, so there's no breezeway, it's just part of
Okay,
the house. And this is what you saw from Blue Jay Terrace looking at the
yeah,
garage.
yeah. Thanks.
Fortunately, we have one of the larger lots in the neighborhood, so we able to squeeze this in.
So is the idea like a master suite kind of thing up there, or what's the?
Something like that, we're not quite sure yet, it depends on the budget, it might be 2 phases.
Budgets,
But
what's a budget?
We're
Come to my house.
We're attempting to, I'm going to retire in a few years, and we're attempting to make this our permanent home.
Okay,
And being a contractor, having cars, wanting to have garage space plus more living space, the house is only 763 square feet. So
Yes,
we'd like to call it home.
My family has lived in Wareham since 1979. Yes, 1979,
79.
yeah. And when they passed, we bought a house down here, and we like it down here, and we plan on living down here.
So that's hence doing this.
Yes, that's the reason for enlarging the house.
yeah, Wareham's a nice place.
I think so, yeah.
We like it.
Okay, questions? Carol?
No questions.
Ron?
I think I've asked everything so far.
Alyssa?
No.
Denise?
No question.
Kwame?
No questions.
Were you impacted by the sewer project across Crab Cove?
Fortunately not.
Okay. I'm just,
Yeah. No, it's across on the other side of the cove at the end of Cottage.
I'm asking because it's the first person I've met that is on Crab Cove.
Yeah, we watched it, it went pretty smooth.
Is there anybody in the audience would like to speak for or against this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to continue the hearing.
Why?
to?
Oh, yeah, we have no DEP.
We don't have a DEP file number to October 6th.
October 6th.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a motion to continue.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, it's continued until October 6th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now have continued hearings. We have a Scott Gray, 17 Lydia's Island Road, has asked to be continued until October 6th. I need a motion.
Motion to continue
Motion to continue.
to October 6th.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, continued. Thomas Parento, 17 Over Jordan Road, has to be continued.
Motion to continue to October 6th?
Second.
Is that what they
I
asked
have a
for?
motion, and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Scott and Laura Christofoli asked to be continued.
Motion to continue to October 6th?
Second.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstained, is continued. George and Carrie Barrett asked for a continuation.
Motion to continue to October 6th?
No, they asked, I believe, for October
I
20th.
have a motion till October 6th.
I believe they asked for
requested
October
Sorry.
20th.
10/20.
10/20.
Motion to continue to October 20th?
Second.
Barrett.
That
I
was
have a
Barrett.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. We have a hearing for William and Jean Whalen. Is there anybody here for this project?
Negative.
I see nobody.
Refresh my memory.
This is the violation with the wall down in Gitchagumi and
Okay.
Indian Beach.
This is the one we've had. This one's been for quite some time now.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
had it, I wasn't able to reach them before this meeting. I'll make sure that I get in touch with them and get a decision one way or the other, what they plan to do, for the
Because they're
next
no
meeting.
longer working with the engineer, correct?
So,
No, they've parted ways with GAF Engineering. They chose not to work with them anymore, so I don't know where they're at in terms of if they're gonna have another engineer, if they're gonna remove the wall. So I really need to get them back in front of the commission so we can find out what.
So we'll continue this to the 6th?
Yes.
yes, so that's the motion.
Second.
I have a second to continue to October 6th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. We are continuing. File. The next one is Mario Cenero.
No, we just did that. We just continued that. We're under BERE.
Sorry?
No, we didn't.
Oh, wait, no, sorry, I lied.
Yeah.
Sorry.
91 Edgewood Drive.
So,
That's me, nobody.
it's Bob, it's up again.
See, I was trying to get you to go home, Bob. See, I was trying to give you a little extra time.
Well, it's a living.
So this is the dock that got torn down and rebuilt without any approval, correct? Okay,
Yes, that's correct.
91 Edgewater Drive.
Is revised.
So I'm assuming these are the updated plans?
They are, Mr. Bessie. I was only able to get them produced today, and so obviously we will be continuing again, but I wanted to just take advantage of a little time tonight so we could move forward.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. I know that Mr. Bichette has not seen these new plans. What, Bob, could you
Sure.
summarize what we're...
Yeah, sure. So I did email this to David at the end of the day. As we discussed at the last hearing, based on having filed and then received the report from ECR regarding the locations of eelgrass that he found, the ball was back in our court to update our survey and to attempt to locate the eelgrass that he found. He had given measurements in his report that about 50 feet off the end of the existing floats, he saw sparse eelgrass, and then 65 feet out, he saw a denser bed of eelgrass, or eelgrass. Our surveyor went out last Wednesday in an extremely low tide event with his waders on and with a sight box, and he just walked straight out to the, presumably the same area as Brad Holmes, and he found absolutely nothing. He had his sight box. His boots on his waders were sinking in 10 inches to a foot into the sedimented bottom. And so I spoke with David about it earlier today. He reached out to me, and we've been in contact with Brad Holmes about it. You know, from the beginning, we were very surprised that Brad found any eelgrass, because it was never mapped as an area that supported it, and we did not find it in our survey in September of 2019. So the revised plan basically identifies soundings that were done in 2019, and we sort of flipped the new soundings that we just did last week. Those elevations match, but we couldn't find the eelgrass. So, you know, my suggestion, or Dave's suggestion, is to, well, we're just going to re-engage Brad Holmes to go back out there to the same area. I would certainly recommend that be done on a time of low tide that Mr. Pichette could join him, so that we could put this issue to rest, because that's the only way that we can get a new pier and float out to the depth of water that would be approvable by the commission. So we just have to, we've got conflicting information. I think it's, part of the reason is the recent storms that we've had, and the fact that it is so silty and soft out there. You know, Brad went as soon as he could, you know, the first or second week of July. The 2 times that we've looked has been this time of year in September. And so, you know, I don't have an explanation for why things sprout up or not, but.
I definitely would want to hear from the consultant that was involved to find out his thoughts and have him relook at the area, because again, he's the one that submitted the initial information and the initial report that identified the area as having the eelgrass, and he hasn't really been back out there since.
So the recommendation is that someone from GAF and Mr. Holmes, maybe including you, go out there and walk the site to say, all right, let's look at it one more time for eelgrass, all 3 sets of eyes. At what site Brad thought he saw it, or you said someone said they didn't see it, so.
Yeah, and the bylaw, you know, the bylaw says we must locate all areas of eelgrass, and then, you know, it uses the term eelgrass beds must be kept away from, so that there needs to be a sense that it's here, it's thriving, it's not to be diminished, you know. But it seems like, you know, the sparse eelgrass that Brad saw, it just.
So you'll arrange a time?
Yes.
Who will you reach out to? Brad, or do you want?
Yes, yeah, I mean, if Dave can't be there for some reason, I understand. I just think I would.
have waiters.
Exactly. I have a rake, I have a basket. But
I'll plan to, I want to see this anyway, if possible.
Okay, so we're going to continue until?
Is 2 weeks going to be good, or should we push this out maybe to the second meeting in October?
Well, I would always say go for the 6th, and then if it's not going to happen,
then just continue.
Much like other people, yeah.
Okay.
We'd send an email.
So then let's say a motion to continue.
Does anybody have any questions before we continue? I'm seeing none, hearing none.
So motion to continue to October 6th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? We're continued.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here you go. Next hearing. BERE LLC in care of Beals and Thomas off North Harbor Road. sorry, thank you. Please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Sarah Stearns with Beals and Thomas. Also with me tonight is Ian Ward from New England Consulting and landowner Brett Meredith of Rocky Maple Solar. If you'd like, I can give a quick recap of where we left off.
I think Mr. Pichette normally starts us off, and then we'll ask you to fill in anything that...
Thank you.
I'm hearing Mr. White say you need to do the microphone.
Talk.
Is the green light on?
It is.
Sandy, it's you. Me?
Yeah.
It's in my... Thank you. All right, it's me. Okay.
So again, the project site is off North Carver Road, and the project involves the construction of a commercial solar array within bordering vegetated wetland, riverfront area of the Weweanick River, bordering land subject to flooding, and in the buffer zone to inland bank. The project is also proposed within the 50-foot no activity zone under the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw. The initial proposal was to construct a 3-megawatt AC and 7.3 DC commercial solar array and battery storage facility within the existing cranberry bogs. Is that 3 megawatts still the same, or has that been reduced to the SMART requirement?
It has not been changed.
Okay. So this project is proposed as a dual-use project under the state's SMART program. This is a provision that was added to the state law to allow the renewable energy projects on agricultural land, as long as the project meets certain criteria and the land remains in agricultural use. So in the past, when I've discussed this, I do believe that the project is going to have negative adverse impacts on wetland resource areas such as bordering vegetated wetland and riverfront area. I did also in the past talk about the fact that I didn't believe the alternatives analysis that was submitted was sufficient for the type of project that's being proposed. The applicant did follow up with sort of a second round of information relative to the alternatives analysis, but again, I think all they still focused on was the specific site and the dual-use solar type of a project versus just the commercial solar project in general. So again, in my opinion, they have not done an alternatives analysis that would be needed for such a project. They've also requested waivers to the 50-foot no activity zone, which previously I had recommended that that should not be allowed. So I'll allow the applicant to kind of go over the changes, and then I can make my final recommendations once we've heard any other information and whatever questions the commission has.
Your turn.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since we last spoke. As Dave mentioned, since our initial NOI submission, we had sent over through Dave 2 supplemental information packets. One was at the beginning of August. The second came just before our last hearing together. And going down the table, I believe everyone or nearly everyone said we needed more time to review it. We'd like to really delve into it, which totally understandable. You know, we haven't at this point submitted anything further in terms of plan changes or details. We thought tonight we would come and get your feedback from the review of the materials that we had submitted. I know Dave's position, he had mentioned the same items last time we spoke. And if it suits the commission, we'd like to try to answer any remaining questions that you may have now that you've had an opportunity to review the materials that we had sent over. Do you want to add anything before we respond?
Just that, just to talk about the big picture, this is a farm-first endeavor. It's a really important aspect of the SMART program, having a cranberry bog be functional underneath solar array. The SMART program, the work that is done on filing, and the town, I don't believe, has seen this before, but the work that's done at the state level, filing a predetermination application, they really don't leave too many stones unturned. You got to talk about what you're using for, how you're growing the cranberries, what you're doing for agricultural aspects of the equipment to determine if everything is functional, can remain functional underneath these panels. Really, from a farm first perspective, you've got to go through UMass, you've got to go through the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources, Clean Energy Extension. So that's what is built into the agricultural aspect of this. The farming part of it will continue. This is an enhancement for the long-term sustainability of this particular property. So happy to take any agricultural questions on that part.
And would you like to add anything?
I think Ian just hit the nail on the head. It's kind of don't lose track that it's a farm first and it's a dual-use project. I think sometimes people looking at this project think it's a solar project first and it's not going to be any cranberries underneath, and that's not the case. It's going to get farmed just like it always has. It's going to get mowed just like all our regular practices are going to continue to happen.
And I guess, Madam Chair, I would just add that the design of the project really was intended to utilize open, previously used area. And I know that this site does have jurisdictional wetland resource areas associated with it, including some of the bogs and overlapping riverfront area from the Weweantic. But I would just ask that we, continue to look at it as an area that is currently farmed and will continue to be. And that, unlike other projects, there's very little site work, very little tree removal. We're really trying to utilize the footprint that's already there to create a renewable energy source that also helps keep the farm operational.
If we went and renovated a piece of bog, I think we do a lot more earth removal and different things that we would be putting the solar in.
Okay. Questions? Carol?
No questions at this time.
Ron?
I'll pass at the moment.
Kwame?
This is an interesting project. I mean, as far as dual use, I think it's pretty interesting. But more specifically, my question is, so you have the solar, and then you have the water runoff. Is there any kind of contaminant or anything? Have we even seen any kind of contaminant, especially if it's going in the Weweantic? It can't be any. I mean, I'm just, interested, because it's kind of like...
It's a great question, one that I've asked these guys, and they got a good answer.
I mean, it can't be any more than we're putting on the cranberries. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of stewards of the land.
I don't know.
So
we don't know.
It's an important thing.
It's a good question, and it's the first thing that is asked by any grower or the state when you're trying to do this. So the panels there are panels in the world that have toxic things in them.
Oh, sure.
And there's manufacturers that at the plants there's toxic things. The panels themselves are basically inert. It's silica. So if there's two things to think about. One is if there's a crack in a panel, it takes out the whole line of those panels. So it shows up. People's cell phones ping that panel is down, and people go out and they fix that broken panel. If there's a panel that breaks and for whatever reason wasn't discovered, there's nothing. It can take a long time, and there's nothing that's in them that's coming down onto those bogs that's going to hurt the bogs. So that's what the research says and the experts say. So I'm the agricultural guy, but I'm spinning that back to you and happy to provide more information on that.
One of my biggest questions was food safety and, going through UMass, the UMass experimental station. And
Can you put that microphone in front of your face a little more? I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, that was one of my biggest questions was more food safety because we're going to be farming these afterwards. And, the experimental station kind of put that to rest, and there's no issues with that. We have more of an issue with wildlife out in the bogs with food safety than we do with these panels.
Yeah, thank you.
Denise?
I do have, I've been looking into this, done a lot of looking online into fact sheets and stuff, and I wrote my stuff down, so you just have to bear with me. The Wareham bylaws are intended to utilize home rule authority of this municipality to protect Wareham resources and to add additional standards and procedures stricter than those of the Wetland Protection Acts and Regulations. Except as permitted by this commission in Section 2, no person shall commence to remove, fill, dredge, build upon, degrade, discharge into, or otherwise alter the following resource areas, of which bogs are specifically stated. Additionally, lands within 100 feet of any aforementioned resource area, and here rivers and riverfront areas are specifically mentioned. To take the matter further, Section 7 states clearly that lands within 200 feet of rivers and streams must be proven that there is no practical alternative to the proposed project. Mr. Pichette has asked for that, and I believe he has stated that he is not satisfied with the analysis. Our bylaws are put in place to prevent wetlands loss and to ensure that both the integrity of our town and the aesthetics, which are also covered in our bylaws, remain intact. That being said, I would like to take the matter further to cite several publications on this subject. The first one was Clean Energy Extension Fact Sheet entitled Dual Use Agriculture under Solar Photovoltaic from the University Massachusetts Amherst. A, the system parameters refer to the system size as being no more than 2 megawatts. This project exceeds that limitation. Cranberry Station Newsletter was number 2. Again, UMass Amherst states that the forecast for 2021 is poor to begin with. And number 3, Energy News Network. The article was entitled, Cranberry Farmers Look to Sweeten the Income by Pairing Crop to Solar Panels. This publication states, A, unlike dairy and vegetable farm, a cranberry bog is a wetland. B, dual-use solar has mostly envisioned as a solution for the upland farmers who grow crops or graze livestock under photovoltaic panels. C, the University of Massachusetts Cranberry Station Director Hilary Sandler clearly states that there is a definite yield reduction, and her statement that cranberries are a good candidate because they don't need a lot of sunlight is in direct contrast to a statement by Makepeace spokeswoman Linda Burke that states, if you think about a cranberry bog, it's way out in the open, and that's for a reason: it needs sun. Her statement came from the Cranberry Farmers Want to Build Solar Panels Over Bogs, ABC News. There's also a quote, and I believe, if I get your name wrong, Ian Ward? Mm-hmm. Okay, also states that in 5 or 6 years, we're going to have a new best practices specifically tailored to growing crops under dual-use arrays. It's absolutely something that everyone should evaluate. It's not the answer for cranberries, but it is an answer. In summary, our bylaws clearly prohibit this type of project, and I would like to move that we close public discussion at this time and vote to deny this project.
Second.
Alyssa?
You can second this motion. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Any questions?
No.
Would you like to comment?
Yes, please. Do you have anything to say? You can start.
Because
No,
then
go ahead.
after that, I will ask Nancy and Kathy if they want to come up.
So I'm not quite sure about the quote from me.
I can show it to you if you'd like to see it.
Yes, so I'm not denying that you read it. I think what's important to clarify is that I am advocating for best management practices in 5 or 6 years to be developed. I think having these projects done and done with science to study these, have UMass out there engaged, which they are. And it's a wonderful thing to have good science behind what we think is going to happen, that's substantiated by smaller experiments, but on a larger scale, actually have studies so that for other projects that want to do this, just like any other best management practice that UMass has, there will be a guide saying this is the way you should do it. This is maybe how you want to retrain the vines, or maybe you apply less fertilizer because you don't have as much evapotranspiration, but less water because you don't have as much evapotranspiration. Maybe you have to run frost less often.
I don't think we want to be a petri dish.
So
our bylaws protect us from becoming that study, I believe.
To clarify I just wanted to make sure that my point was clarified, and that is a good thing. I would advocate for that for anything, any project, that if there's good science behind it, you need time for that to happen. 5 or 6 years is an appropriate time after talking with UMass. So that's just, I wanted to clarify for the commission that.
So I think something that the piece that I take from her comments is you specifically said it's not for cranberries.
That's not what I said.
Yes, it
That's
is.
what's written, but I'm just saying from a perspective of this is, cranberries grow in shade.
Mm-hmm.
But we've all seen cranberry bogs with trees next to them that shade the bog, right? I mean, we grew up in this area, that's what happens. Cranberries are partial shade-loving plant. We had an experiment that we did with mock panels, and there was a loss of production in that area mostly because we trampled the vines during bloom.
For 31 days.
It's a month.
So from the perspective of can cranberries grow in this area, every indication says yes. Are we looking to prove that out with third-party certifiers? Absolutely. Why is UMass engaged? Because this is, by design, something that everyone is asking about. So let's provide good data. And before that, I think it's inappropriate for any side to come to a definitive conclusion.
So, but I think but you're coming before us, asking us to make a definitive answer on allowing a project to happen when you yourself just said there's not enough science behind understanding everything that is going to encompass this project or any other project down the road. If I understood that correctly.
You did. We are looking to, the SMART program is trying to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to say, we don't like, I'm not saying this is my opinion. In general, this is a bigger discussion. People are at odds with renewable energy because they're concerned about a bunch of trees coming down. They're also concerned about renewable energy siting of panels because they're concerned about losing farmland, displacing farmers, and upsetting the open space. So the state said, well, maybe there's a happy medium. Maybe we can have solar on farmland that doesn't involve a lot of tree clearing, that allows for the farm to stay in existence. So you're not having to leave it. You're not displacing the farmer. That's the concept. So where do you start? Do you say, well, we don't have enough information, so we can't start? Or do you look at Japan, where there's 120 different crops growing, and they have a lot of these? Do you look at Europe, where they have entire greenhouses in different scales on this? We don't have it here. Doesn't mean it's not happening in the rest of the world. And this concept, unless you start, you just don't know. So we've got good anecdotal information and a year's worth of science on studying this, saying that this should work.
Should.
Yes.
That's the key. It should work. It's not a guarantee. So if I'm just gonna say I'm Mr. Farmer and I own the farm, am I willing to take a chance to destroy my livelihood on a chance that it's gonna work? That's what I'm looking at.
I've been watching this for the past couple of years. My neighbor's been going through has had mock panels up. I have mock panels up over the blueberries, which I don't see them tonight, but one of your board members I took for a ride and kind of showed him, and there's no doubt in my mind you can grow them underneath it. Are you going to grow 500 barrel an acre? No. Are you going to grow 350 barrel an acre? Yeah, I think that's possible on some of these hybrid vines. And it's just it's basically just supplementing your income. You're not just relying on farming to get by. You're getting a little bit from the solar to kind of make up for the bad years, and it just takes the pressure off of trying to just rely on just farming. No matter what type of farming it is in southeastern Mass, unless you're doing some type of niche, whether you're doing farm stands or doing house lots or sand and gravel, like you're not getting by on farming. It's very tough. As much as, like, I love it, that's what I love to do, and this is going to allow me to keep farming. I think it can be done. You know, and I've seen it over my neighbors. You know, he's had those up for 2 years now, and you can't even tell. I've seen it up over my blueberries for a year now, and the crop this year we picked was the same as where there was no panels. And cranberries and blueberries kind of run their cousins, more or less.
Sarah?
Yes, thank you. I guess I would just, in response to the commissioner's statements and proposed motion, I would ask if there is any appetite on the commission amongst the other members, the agent. I'm hearing that there are a few items that seem to be outstanding. We haven't supplied any additional information in the past month just because we haven't had anything formal to respond to. But, we're getting to the point where, we could put together one last response to try to alleviate the concerns that have been put forth tonight, and continue potentially to gather as much as we can, speak to the applicant, particularly in relation to the comment about the size of the array. So I'm just asking amongst the members if that is a consideration.
So I guess we'll go back to that specific thing, the size of the array. It's been discussed multiple times now, and there still hasn't been any thought about change, or at least talk about change, at least to us. So I guess my biggest question would be, we're here now, it's been a month. How come there isn't even any talk about, hey, this is something we've talked about, we don't have it formally, but we haven't even talked about it yet?
I think we're open to, we want to work with the commission to make this successful for everybody. We were hesitant to make any changes in the interim from our last meeting because we had not really gotten any feedback from the board. In fairness, you hadn't had time to review the materials that we had submitted. So our plan was to meet again. Your last meeting was canceled. So tonight, our plan was to come in and ask for feedback from the response of our information and presumably provide additional information to try to address what is still outstanding, or what you took from our information that seemed lacking, or anything specific that we could address in a presumably final supplemental packet. And if that means talking about size restriction or changing the layout, then I think that that's on the table. So I just wanted to put that out there for your consideration and for our discussion.
Denise, one more time, talk about direct to our bylaws. That,
Okay.
one slower for me.
All right.
Just the bylaw infraction.
Okay. Wareham bylaws are intended to utilize home rule, I'm going to take this thing down.
Thank you, that helps.
Home rule authority of this municipality to protect Wareham resources and to add additional standards and procedures stricter than those of the Wetland Protection Act and regulations. Except as permitted by this commission, Section 2, no person shall commence to move, fill, dredge, build upon, degrade, discharge into, or otherwise alter the following resource areas. Lists a bunch of resource areas. Bogs are specifically stated. Additionally, lands within one...
Exempt, right?
Excuse me?
Exempt from doing
No.
any of that stuff?
The bogs are stated as being in there, as not being able to be filled, dredged, built upon, degraded, or discharged.
Okay.
Additionally, lands within 100 feet of any of the aforementioned resource areas, and in that area, rivers and riverfront areas are listed. They are specifically mentioned. To take the matter further, Section 7 states clearly that lands within 200 feet of rivers and streams must be proven that there is no practical alternative proposed project with less adverse effects. And Mr. Pichette has not been satisfied with that.
Yep.
Our bylaws are put in place to prevent wetlands loss and to ensure that both the integrity of our town and the aesthetics, which are also covered in our bylaws, remain intact. Then I went on to the other fact sheets.
So the point being made is our bylaws are not supporting this type of use. Am I reading that correct?
Correct. Our bylaws clearly
Doesn't-
prohibit this type of use.
And our bylaws wouldn't say whether or not it increased or decreased the yield of the cranberries. That's not what
Not a
we're concerned
factor.
with. We are very concerned with the bylaws that are on our books.
Correct.
Thank you. Alyssa?
Elisa, yes, that's fine. Just to sort of stand behind here with Denise, so the things in our bylaws which seem to be sticking points are the riverfront, the area of riverfront and the size of the array seem to be major issues with us. So, and you want a waiver for the no activity zone as well.
May I respond?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Thank you for looking at the bylaws so thoroughly. I think that that's important for all commissions, really, to understand what you're here for, the wetlands protection in your community. So I feel like a lot of commissions don't really do that. So I think that's really good that you did that. So I do appreciate it. So I'm not going to argue any points about that. All of that is written in the bylaw and very similarly in the Wetlands Protection Act. I guess my only point would be that to do work within those resource areas, the commission has discretion to issue orders of conditions for work within resource areas and their buffer zones, both under the act and the bylaw, which is why we're here discussing this project. Really, the listing of those resource areas really is just to say that shall not be allowed without discussion with the commission and an application for a permit for that work. So, I'm just saying this is why we're here. We have quantified impacts to the bogs that are jurisdictional BVW, as well as provided replication area as required in both the act and the bylaw. The riverfront work within the riverfront is limited to, as I said before, the existing bog. There are some panels located within the outer riparian zone, which again, up for discussion if we want to look at pulling those out of the riverfront area. Other than that, there is no work within the riverfront area. And just my other point on that, there's a very lengthy requirement under 310 CMR 1058 for work in the riverfront area, which is also reflected in the bylaw, which was supplied in the notice of intent and the supplemental information. I know that Dave still has questions on that, which we can take another crack at. But, I think looking at like the very broad overview of permitting work within the riverfront area is that you are allowed a certain percentage if you meet certain performance standards. The riverfront area on this property, just on the Wareham side of things, I'm not even talking about in Carver, since this project is split between the two towns, what we're proposing is a minuscule percentage of work within the riverfront area. And again, we're open to talking about modifying that if that's what it's going to take to satisfy the commission's concern about that. And, trying to address Dave's specific comments about really drilling down further on alternatives analysis, specifically potentially other farms, since we're just talking dual use, so it would have to be assessing the availability of another farm that could provide something similar. So anyway, those are just my comments related to your assessment of the bylaw and how it coincides with the act.
I just don't understand how many different ways we have to tell you that our bylaws protect us against what you want to do.
Do we want to take some comments from?
I was just going to say, if there's nothing else from the board, I'd like to see if Nancy or Kathy would like to come up and have comments. And look how well you're walking. I'm impressed. New hip, yay.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Thank you.
And I agree, it's hard to.
It is. I can't even breathe. with
Anyway,
this.
Kathy Papalardo, my comment would be whether or not the cranberries are going to grow or the blueberries or whatever, the issue is location. This is a wetland, and the wetland bylaw is there to protect the wetland. This one happens to be a wetland cranberry bog. The bylaw should be enforced. This isn't a little project going in that you may say, well, you know, we can rule to make an exemption and we'll let them do such. This is a big deal. So I think the commission should be enforcing the bylaw. That's what it's there for. This town has so much wetland, but this is a wetland. It should be protected. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Thank you. Nancy McHale. This is not...
Do you mind so we can hear you? Thank you. You're so
Sure, that would be
soft-spoken.
fine. Sorry about that. This is an industrial use in a wetland. It's not a hardship for the farmer at this point. It's not a hardship for the homeowner because they have no other place to put this solar. I'm sorry, it could be moved back further from the wetland, from the resource area of the riverfront, if necessary. But in terms of the industrial use, I do have some specific questions about the poles that are going to be holding up all of these solar arrays. What are they manufactured out of?
Sarah, do you mind answering? Are you able to answer?
I can speak broadly to it. In our proposal, in our plan set, we had included a number of options for the foundations, predominantly steel posts, either I-beams, helical piles, possibly timber piles, but any of those options are in consideration depending on the site conditions.
Okay, the possibility of timber poles is, I find extremely problematic because those would be treated timbers. And unless there are studies saying that there's going to be no leachates into the bogs, or, I mean, I'm concerned about the food safety, I'm concerned about the wildlife that is in the river. I'm concerned about the quality of water downstream from there. So that is a major concern for that. I mean, this is definitely an altering and filling of a wetland by piling, you know, putting those pilings in. Let's see. Sorry, I took notes on a different stuff. In terms of this being a dual project, and I haven't heard yet what the performance standards are for this to still be considered farm first. I don't know if there are any particular regulations for that, and how would you know that?
But that would be outside of the scope of our bylaw.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
But it's just something that might make it a little more palatable, but it's just absurd to think that we're going to put all of this industrial waste, or not waste, well, it is industrial waste. I mean, in 20 years or 15, if they decide there's better technology, it's going to be waste. And that's a decommissioning issue that's outside of the scope of this commission as well, I'm sure. The fencing for the wildlife corridor, you know, again, those are very real concerns that we need to keep these things open. And I would say that no waiver should be granted for this, regardless, period, end report. And if the treated poles would be used, would the DEP Water Supply Division be notified? Because it's on a river. These are, basic questions, but I thank the board for allowing me to express them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If, Mr. Bichette, did you have something to final it before
Yeah,
we?
I'd like to make several comments, and, before I make the comments I make, I just want to make it clear that any of my comments are not against the property owner. I've met the property owner and think he's very reputable, and it's not against cranberry growers, and it's also not against solar, because I think they're all things that are necessary. My problem is with the siting of a solar commercial project in a wetland. That's the problem I have. So I'll touch upon a few points that I have. I'll start with the issue of the riverfront area. As I mentioned, I do believe the alternatives analysis wasn't complete, because I don't think this should be limited to a solar dual use project. This is a commercial solar project. So you have to look at sites beyond just agricultural areas. Secondly, I believe the fencing in of the riverfront area is a significant issue, and I do think that that whole area of the riverfront is going to be impaired because of that. It's going to further fragment the wildlife habitat along the riverfront corridor, which I don't agree with. Also, in terms of the bordering vegetated wetland, I've mentioned that in the past as well, where I think that, again, the entire fenced-in area should be considered an alteration, not just simply the area where the pilings are going to be placed. So, again, in my opinion, the project doesn't meet certain performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act, specifically that, in my opinion, the project is not proposed to replicate the amount of BVW altered from the construction, and further that the project does not comply with the performance standards under the riverfront, in that the project does not provide a complete analysis of the project purpose or to reduce or eliminate riverfront alterations. Under the wetland bylaw, there are several resource area values that would be affected, in my opinion, as a result of the project, which are groundwater, water quality, water pollution control, wildlife habitat, and aesthetics. And when the commission is evaluating projects under our bylaw language, it says that you can take into account the cumulative adverse effects of loss, degradation, isolation, and replication of protected resource areas throughout the community and the watershed, resulting from past activities permitted and exempt in foreseeable future activities. So again, under the bylaw, the commission is empowered to deny a permit for failure to meet requirements of the bylaw, or for failure to avoid or prevent unacceptable, significant, or cumulative effects upon the resource area values protected by the bylaw, and where no conditions are adequate to protect those values. So again, part of that goes back to not solely this project, but what it's going to be going forward. Wareham already has a significant amount of alterations of forested land due to all the solar projects we have. If we now are also going to allow all these commercial projects into our wetlands, that's just going to have a huge cumulative impact on the resource area values of our bylaw. And as was already stated by one of the commission members, within the 200-foot riverfront area, we are supposed to be limiting alterations of that area unless there's no practical alternative to that, which I don't believe has been proven out. And then there's also this issue of the aesthetics. One of the resource area values protected under the Wareham bylaw is aesthetics, and this is specifically important in a town like Wareham, where you have so many cranberry bogs. They're prevalent, they make up an important scenic component of the town. And so, in my view, along with the adverse potential impacts to the wetland resource areas, this type of project would also transform the landscape of the town from a scenic rural agricultural community to a commercial landscape with fencing, steel and glass visible from various locations that's not currently the case. So with all those things in mind, I would recommend the commission not approve the project. And again, it's nothing to do with the property owner or solar project or cranberry growers. It's just simply that I don't believe that we should allow these cumulative impacts to affect our wetland resource areas, riverfront area, and the aesthetics as stated in our bylaw. So that's my viewpoint on it.
Thank you. Anything to add before we make a motion to close the hearing?
Well, I can't say I'm not disappointed, but I would regret it if I didn't ask if there is anything further that the applicant could do to adjust the project, to give the commission another look at it as it stands today. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Put it over a parking lot.
Denise, I think you need to hit your button. I think your green light's off.
Put it over a parking lot.
Got it loud and clear this time.
Is there anything
clear?
Can I ask one thing?
Yes.
And I hope I'm not out of line by asking this, but how many people on the board have come out to actually see this property?
I didn't need to see the property. My bylaws protect your property.
I get it. I was just curious. That's all.
I was out there while your people that would be installing it were out there looking at alternatives to get out, to put the pylons in. So I was out there with several other people.
The engineers?
Yes.
Okay.
I just happened to drive by when they were there.
And I also went to Carver and I took a look at what they were doing over there.
Okay. I was just curious out of my own. I just like to know who.
Yes.
Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Dave, for coming out. And thank you guys, everybody else. I wish you guys could see it to kind of get the feel for it, but.
They're beautiful bogs.
Thank you.
They really are well maintained. I saw very few weeds.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to do, but.
Yes.
See, my garden, it's nothing but weeds.
So I'm gonna make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion to close the hearing. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed. Denise, would you like to make the motion?
I would like to make a motion to deny this project.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. The favor to vote yes means you denying the project. All in favor of denying the project, say
Yes.
Yes.
opposed to denying the project? Abstained. So we have a vote of 6-0-0 to deny the project based on our bylaws.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Dave, you'll send me the paperwork?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
I had something else to discuss.
Okay, so
Sandy, I have
found it.
one more thing that I wanted to go over tonight with the group. If we could just get it out there so people can think about it. We get a lot of people who come in and tell us that they had no idea of what was a regulation or what they needed to come to us and everything. I was wondering if we could talk about putting together some type of informational sheet or notifying people in some way, shape, or form. I know we got this newsletter from the water board when they sent out the water bills. I mean, really specific as to what can and can't be done.
Well, that's something we can
Can we talk about it and think about doing something?
Why don't you get together with Dave and the two of you come back? Yeah, there you go. The two of you come back with some alternative.
Dave just loves to see me. I even know how to unlatch the door.
Make
So
a
we-
proposal and come see Dave, but we have.
We have one more on the agenda.
We have two more things on the agenda, but we have the certification of compliance.
No, we need to continue the last
Continue.
hearing, Faring Hill.
Someone make a motion to continue.
Motion to continue 91 and 101 Faring Hill to October 6th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstain, yay, nay, opposed? I knew the word was
Little
there. So
punchy at this
opposed,
point.
abstained, 600. It is continued until October 6th. We have one certification of compliance.
This certificate of compliance is for a site over in Onset. It's the property right next to the Point Independence Yacht Club where we had the issue of where they had put some fill in there and then we told them to remove it. If you recall that, Sandy, it's right near the barn there on the low side of the Point Independence Yacht Club parking lot. Well, anyway, there was an older order on this site which had never been closed out, and they're selling the property, and so that order has been satisfied, and so I would recommend the issuance of that, which included some grading work at that particular site.
Okay. Someone need a motion?
So moved. Second.
I need a motion to grant the certification of compliance.
She said so moved.
So moved, okay. Second,
Second.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
Aye. No, I mean aye as in yes. Sorry, my button wasn't,
Aye.
Aye.
it wasn't green.
Okay. So we'll be signing that paper, and the last thing I want to talk about, I want formally talk about our meeting formats. I know we discussed about Zoom and we talked in person, but I really think we should vote as to how we should continue our meetings. So if there's anything you want to talk about or make a motion.
I want to just mention, I don't think that on Zoom, we would have this conversation like this.
I agree. I
I
think
think that it's too easy to get lost if you are not somebody who stands up and
Okay.
really emphasizes your point or whatever. It's very easy to get lost on Zoom, and
Okay. So your motion is to continue in
no,
person?
you just wanted, that would be.
well, you wanted comments first before we.
Comments, so
Comment
I
would
get
be,
the feeling we continue this way. Is that?
Well,
that is my guess.
there's another side to that too, because then you have a lot of people that can't get here that need to have access. So Zoom is something of an option if we can do like
And
dual.
I think they're trying to do both Zoom and in person and planning, and I don't know if it's
Hybrid,
working
yeah.
out well.
I know, it might be
it's-
kind of
It
weird.
takes a lot of manpower by both WCTV and somebody else to
Sure.
Not
make
quite
that.
working out because I think either you have to have different technology or you have to have multiple people that can run it. And right now,
Yep.
those don't exist.
So here's my thought, and I have many. What we do as a commission is way too important to have any misses. And I think by being on Zoom, like to Elisa's point,
Thank you.
is perfect example of this project here. Like, we need to be able to have that conversation, and I think it doesn't happen on Zoom. I think we have an opportunity to be together to make these important decisions for our town. And a lot of the decisions we make as a commission are very important. And I don't think Zoom does this commission. Maybe it will work for other committees and whatnot and boards, but I think for what we do to protect our town, Zoom doesn't do the justice.
I think also, our ladies in the corner, I don't know if I've ever heard you speak on Zoom. And I've been on.
Okay, there's been some, there's been,
Hard to make sure.
but
But I agree with the in-person. I do find it, you learn so much more, you understand so much better, more people have more time to actually have input than when we're on Zoom.
Denise, I've heard for everybody but you.
I liked Zoom because I thought more people were able to get onto it, but I think you have more, a better conversation when you're in person.
Okay.
What do you think, Sandy?
Well, I like.
Yeah, we'd like to hear you what you think.
I sort of like the meeting in my pajamas, but.
Eating dinner with while you're there.
And we miss your cat too.
It's nice to meet in your pajamas.
I like the in-person meetings. to me, the people who show up here have a play in the game, whatever that thing is.
Skin in the game?
Skin in the
Skin in the
game.
game.
And they're here, we hear them, we see them, we interact with them, and I think that's critical for part of our decision-making. So if someone, I would like to have a formal vote to continue our meetings in person unless the town shuts down all the buildings, then it's different.
So I make a motion that we continue in-person meetings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, and that's 600. So in case anybody asks, we as a Conservation Commission voted to continue with in-person meetings. I see nothing else in the agenda. Does anybody have anything?
I have one thing. Motion to close the meeting.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 9:15, we're closed. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.